The idea, insight, or secret you need for massive impact is just moments away. It's time to claim your career crown. The podcast where business owners and entrepreneurs share the keys to the kingdom to help you open the vault to your greater success. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petite to Queen's Claim Your Career Crown podcast. I'm your host, Lynn, and today we're joined by our special guest, Chuck Blakeman. I think I put an R in there when I wasn't supposed to.
It's okay.
Blakeman.
My name gets butchered all the time.
Well, so does mine. So today, Chuck and I are going to be talking about twice the profit, how to double your income in 90 days or less, because getting results is what drives your business and enables you to help and serve even more people. And if you get a ton of value in this episode, I would love to invite you to subscribe because it costs nothing to subscribe. Now, Chuck is a serial entrepreneur, author, and speaker who built 13 businesses in 10 industries on 4 continents. Oh my, and now helps other business leaders make more money in less time and get off the business treadmill. His company, Crankset Group, provides mentoring, mastermind groups, and peer advisory for business owners and companies worldwide. Chuck is a rare combination of successful business owner, international speaker, and author who inspires leaders and provides simple tools to transform their business. Print and online appearances include Harvard Business Journal, Entrepreneur Magazine, Inc. Magazine, and so many more. So, Chuck, what a bio. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be with you, Lynn. And when people read those things, it feels like an obituary to me, all the things you used to do.
But are still active in. All right, come on. Yeah. So what a story, as you said, but I'd love to hear about what inspired you to get started on this journey, especially today and with this first topic the topic we're covering.
Yeah, well, I came out of high school left-handed, right-brained, ADHD, and dyslexic, and graduated at the bottom of my class, joined the Army because they had to take me. And in the Army, I somehow started some little business thing, and fast forward 35, 40 plus years later, I have built all those businesses and all those industries. And so I found out I had something to offer. But out of high school, they told me I should be a tinsmith because I played clarinet. And so I'd be good with my hands, and they needed tinsmiths back then. So that's my claim to fame is I thought I was going to be a nothing, and I still am. I'm grateful to be transforming a lot of things in my own life and in other people's lives. And the last 15 years, I have 2 businesses we still work with that are focused on helping other small business owners not make all the mistakes that I made. And for the last 20 years, we've been doing a training course. It's a 10-week training course that is based on this idea of doubling your income in 90 days. I did it for myself twice first before I did it with anybody else. I never put anything out there that I'm not doing. And for the last 20 years, we've been helping business owners figure out how to make more money in less time and get off the treadmill. And we see probably 50+% of them actually double their income or their revenue, whichever one they want to double, inside of 90 days when we get them involved in this process. The book I just finished, it's coming out March 18th, whether that's before or after when your podcast comes out, but it's coming out March 18th from Entrepreneur Press, and it's called Sell Less, Earn More. And it is basically that 20 years of business development training in a book. And we teach people, we call it the anti-sales book, because I don't know about you, Lynn, but most business owners I know don't like to do sales, right? They do not like, it's like, oh no, I'm making chairs and they're piling up in the basement. Now I have to actually go do something about it. And sales is a necessary evil. Then we read all these books that tell us we're supposed to love sales. This is a book to tell you you don't have to love sales. In fact, you can stop selling and you can make more money if you do these relational things instead. So we're excited about the book. Entrepreneur Press said it's They haven't had a book like this in their 75 years of printing books, because we are the anti-sales book. This is the cure for the common cold call. We're gonna get you out of that nonsense so you can do the thing you loved as a business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm all for that, because sales is a relationship, and
Yeah.
it's a gift. It's how you help and serve others and create lasting impact.
Yes.
So, with that said, I'm right there with you. What does traditional sales get wrong, and how can sales professionals turn that around?
Yeah, it's a great question, because sales didn't exist the way we think of it until around 1850. It was the first time in the history of man that we made more stuff than we needed. Factories started kicking in, and we just made 10,000 buckets, and we only need 2,000. What are we going to do with 8,000 buckets? Well, let's go find strangers. The people we know would buy the 2,000 buckets. We got to go find 8,000 strangers. So we need somebody. We'll call them a salesperson, and they'll go door to door, and they'll stab people with their business card. And it works because nobody's done it before, so nobody's sick of it. And all of a sudden, we have this thing called sales. And it's basically sales and marketing were created largely to get rid of excess goods that we didn't, we were just making too much stuff. So we have to convince people they need stuff they don't need. And that's what salespeople are for. So we get it wrong from the beginning that sales is transactional. I see you with you got dollar signs on your forehead. My job is to separate you from some of the money in your pocket. And I'm not supposed to walk away until I sell something. Sales, we don't even use the word sales anymore because it's so broken. We'll use business development, which used to be something different, but it just nobody wants. It's the old adage that's been out there for 75 years. Everybody wants to buy, nobody wants to be sold. And yet, since 1850, we've been selling at people and stabbing them with our business cards. So then you know all these little things. Here's examples of what we have wrong. I'm going after my target market. I'm not a target market. I'm Chuck. Selling to strangers. I buy from friends. Pitching. Do you even know what I need yet? You're going to pitch me. Persuading. You're selling, which makes me not want to buy. How about pain points? I buy from my joy points. I don't buy from pain points. Uninvited ongoing contact. We call that stalking in my world. Emotional manipulation. That's narcissism. Controlling the conversation. Wait a minute. I want to talk. I'm the customer. Cold calls. Ugh. The whole idea of cold calls, closing the sale. All of these things, false scarcity. And my favorite, I still hear this from salespeople. I contacted my database. What if you just connected with somebody you know? But it says everything, doesn't it, Lynn? I contacted my database. That's as transactional as you can get. Versus,
Yeah.
hey, I talked to somebody I know who can refer me to somebody else I know. So we got it all wrong. Other than that, we're doing well. And guys like Seth Godin in the 90s began to see this. He called it permission marketing. How about if you just do this with people who actually want to hear from you? We tell people to go into a one-to-one and never talk about their business again unless they are asked. And they will make more money if they do. Ask questions about these people, build relationships. So, yeah, other than that, we've got it all right.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I was just looking today at, as a sales consultant, I was looking at another website, and one of the comments was, it's more than a numbers game. And I went, it's not a numbers game. Sales isn't a numbers game at all.
No.
Sales is truly about helping and serving and creating impact. I mean,
Yes.
That's my definition of sales. And to your point, maybe the definition itself is outdated, but it is about building those relationships and becoming a trusted partner. So that is, it's so refreshing to have. I mean, I'm just laughing as you're talking about some of these things.
The laughter of recognition, right?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. It's the same thing. People, it's like, oh, I've got to immediately go into what I do and pitch them on my product
when you
or
see
service.
Something you like. I got something here. Stop me when you see something you like.
It's like,
New York vendor.
No. First, you got to figure out, can you help and serve them?
Yeah.
B, do you want to help and serve them?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but that's B. Because then is it a win-win?
Yeah.
And then it's just guiding the conversation to, so that they ask you, they invite you, right, to tell them more. And
Exactly.
that's about building a relationship.
It
So
is.
Chuck, I'm curious because I know I have a process. I'm sorry
Yep.
I'm interrupting you,
No, it's
but do
okay.
you have a process?
Yes, of course we have a process, and it's what we've been training on for the last 20 years. And there's multiple things to this process, but I can tell you this: the process is not a transactional mechanical process. It's built on principles, and then there's tools to support it. And there's probably 5 or 6 different things we train people on. And anybody who grabs one or two of those things that fits them personally will really benefit. It's not like some of these sales processes where you've got to do exactly what this
Exactly.
person is telling you, and I could name some of them, but I won't. And and those are designed for the people who actually just don't want to think about this and actually want to be transactional. So our process has things like, starting with the principle, serve, don't sell. And then
Yeah.
we have the 4 walking, and that was actually the name of the book to begin with, but the publisher thought sell less, earn more would sell more books. So and then we have the 4 walking in commitments. What are the 4 things you should say into yourself to get your head right, your heart right, and to understand you're walking into a relationship, not to some transactional thing? And once you have the 4 walking in commitments in your head, then we have, when we get into the meeting, 4 buying questions, not 4 selling questions. I love your perspective on this, because nobody wants to be sold. What if I
No.
ask them questions that flipped the script? All I do is ask them questions about themselves so that I'm no longer selling, they want to buy. And we've turned that thing around simply by asking them some honest questions about who they are as people and what their dreams are and things like that. So the 4
Yeah.
buying questions are part of the process to get them where they want. And then we have this analogy that we've always used. I like simplicity. I need simplicity to make things work for me. So we use this thing called the lumberjack buying system, not the lumberjack selling system. And the lumberjack buying system is simply an analogy that uses the forest is networking. So the
Yeah.
analogy is, you're going to the forest to find some trees. Well, you're going to a networking group to find some transactions. And the once you finally get those people, you have contacts for them, then that becomes your outside woodpile. So you've chopped the tree down, you put it in your outside woodpile. Now you have to season the relationship. And you go from the outside woodpile to the inside woodpile when you're actually having a buying conversation with someone where they know, hey, we're going to talk about my product, Chuck's product or service, and see if it's a fit. That's from the outside to the inside woodpile. And then on the fire is, would you like to give it a try? Yes or no? And those are the 3 simple stages that people are at, is basically outside woodpile, on the fire, or outside woodpile, inside woodpile, and on the fire. And it helps me know where everybody is in the process. Then I do the 4 walking in commitments to myself. I do the 4 buying questions with them, and off we go. The other piece of the process that is super important, I think you'll agree on this. I challenge people all the time. I just ask them, where does the sales process break down for you? And I'll give them options. Does this break down because you don't have a cool message or a really fancy website, or a cool product? Or does it break down because you don't know how to talk to people who are in front of you? Or does it break down at the close? I don't think it breaks down at any of those. It breaks down at, I don't have anybody to talk to. Or I don't have the right people to talk to. And that's the biggest part of our process. Is we call it, the process is to get the goal is to get a steady stream of potential clients. So we use some of our processes, things like catalyst events and gold veins and lumberjacks and things like that, to help you get to where you have a steady stream of people coming to you instead of you having to chase people. And part of our process, I think you would agree with this to some degree at least, part of our process is to challenge people to never talk to another stranger again. And you will make more money. Trust me, you can do this with people you already know.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, that's really about building the relationships, and it's, so often it's who do you know,
Yeah.
and then that they become, a trusted resource. They make introductions, and there is a whole piece about that, and it's also always showing up as your authentic self,
Mhm.
human to human, to make those connections.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate talking about that process. And, and those, to me, I saw four phases. I also see four phases in sales. So I agree that I think there's another phase, and that's the post sales experience.
Yes.
So that's such an important piece,
Yes.
because the sale is truly, you're at the halfway point when they say yes.
Yeah.
Because now you execute and deliver on your promise, deliver the results. You're building that relationship even greater, so that you can truly, reap the rewards of the forest, in the sense of introductions, referrals, testimonials, raving fans.
Yeah, and Lynn, this is where we get it wrong so often. Is we've taught people to hunt one tree at a time, and so we go to the networking group, and we've got 2 hours to wade through 200 trees to find the three people who actually need what I have. I'm looking for 3 trees out of in an entire forest. I've only got 2 hours. If I miraculously find one and I stab it with my business card and it sticks, and we season a relationship and they buy something, what do I do? What do? I go right back to the forest and find another tree. What if I found a lumberjack who's done all that? They spent 5 years, 10 years doing all that networking, and they got 700 people in their database who would want to buy what I have. And all I have to do is make friends with the lumberjack and get them to the point where they'll refer to me. And guess what? I've got people I can refer to them. Boy, we only need 2 or 3 of those to have a really successful business. And it's so much more fun than talking to strangers.
Yeah. No, I mean, the strategic partnerships really are important. And also when you're at those events and, you see people looking at the name tags and trying, and it's just like, oh, please. I've done things purposely. I'll turn my name tag upside down, I'm just, it's really a fascinating thing, and of where people are coming from. And it's that opportunity also to make the human to human connection. Yeah. I mean, my most common question is like, Chuck, if you could be anywhere else, where would you be? Yeah. Who would you be with? And what would you be doing?
Personal question.
Yeah. And so I already know, I find out a hobby or an interest, and something, I mean, you're going to tell me something. And from that, there's going to be some piece that I can take to the next question.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
I used to, when I went to networking events, and I'm not against networking, but it's something you graduate from. That's one of the problems we have in sales is people are taught you have to network your entire life. No, that you network your entire life if you don't have a network. When I went to networking groups, I always felt like one of 100 vultures sitting on a wire looking for the dead cow. And the dead cow, which was, some really good business, they don't go to networking events. So, I mean, that's one of the big surprises to us is successful business owners don't go to networking events. Is it because they've lost their mojo? No, it's because they've found that they can replace networking with a small network of lumberjacks. Why would I go to the forest over and over again when I got 3 to 5 people who have all been to the forest? Let's just build our relationships and go from there. So you're no longer one of the vultures on the wire. It's very refreshing. And it really is. It was startling to me when I first thought of it myself. Successful business owners don't go to networking groups. What's wrong with them? They've graduated. So I love networking. It's a great place to start if you don't have any friends. And then even where you're there, you should be looking for lumberjacks. When I went to those things, I looked for customers, but I was looking more for people who had already done a lot of this, that we could help push each other forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, this ties into my next question about a phrase that you use. Why is identifying that first domino a challenge? And so let's talk about the first domino, because we haven't talked about it yet. No. And then why it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's one of the things in our process is that every business has what we call a first domino. And you picture a room full of dominoes. If they're all lined up correctly, how do you knock them all down with one action? You just hit the first one, and it creates this chain reaction. Every business has a first action, a first activity that if you do this activity well, it will make everything else in your business go. And it's not a reactive activity. When I say this to people, they say, "Oh yeah, the phone rings." No. What made the phone ring? There's some kind of marketing, advertising. There's usually some very proactive thing. And with the smaller the business, it's more about connecting with one person at a time, having events, lunches, coffees. My first domino was when I first started years ago was 4 cups of coffee a week, because I knew my closing ratios, which almost no business owner does. My closing ratio was 27.59% of the people I sat down with to have a cup of coffee would buy from me. That's basically 1 out of 4. So I knew I needed 1 out of 4 cups of coffee a week because I wanted 1 new customer a week. So I scheduled 5 cups of coffee because I'm not a victim. Because if I schedule 4, somebody doesn't show up, I'm going to say, it's not my fault. Somebody else did this. No, it is my fault because I knew that was going to happen. So that's the concept here is what the most important number/activity any business owner can figure out is their first domino, because everything else falls from that. If you know that you're supposed to have 4 cups of coffee a week, now you're in a yes and no world. Am I going to get up in the morning and do this? Yes or no? It's not like I don't know what to do, so I'll do lots of things and work really hard. What if we had utter clarity? Lynn, this utter clarity brings power. And to know that all I need is 4 cups of coffee a week. How do I do that? And off we go. So what's your first domino?
Yeah,
that's what people need to learn.
Yeah, they do. It's very, from a strategic positioning and the work that you do, it's absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And there's so much that goes on of chasing the shiny objects, just busy work, wasted time, energy, and resources. So another thing that we were talking about, related to coffee, and this is one of the key things that, I know that I talk a lot about, is that you have to listen, and you have to actively listen. And you call it tier 3 listening.
Tier 3 listening, yes.
And I see this still, I continue to see this as a common blind spot, that people don't check their own egos or their own need to talk at the door. They need to listen. So let's talk about tier 3 listening.
Yeah, tier 3 listening is something I adopted from a book called The Power of Purpose by Peter Temes, T-E-M-E-S. And he talks about tier 3 thinking, or three tiers of thinking. And over the years, I realized, for me, I adopted this a different way because I'm a terrible listener, and I need to learn how to listen. And this tier 1 is simply something like, how do I think and feel about me? That's something we begin to develop in the womb, and certainly by the time we're out, we're raging tier 1 thinkers. How do I think and feel about me? I'm tired. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. I have to go to the bathroom. It's all about me. The world's all about me. Sometime during our adolescence, we developed tier 2. Tier 2 is, how do others think and feel about me? Oh no, the world's watching. and they're staring at me, and and so I get all self-conscious because the whole junior high is staring at me. Both of those are really important. We really need to know how I think and feel about me, and a lot of people never develop that, or it's taken away from them by their parents or society or something. And tier 2 is really important. How do others think and feel about me? I used to think that was the sales skill. I need to read people, and do they like me, and do they like my product? And that's tier 2. Those 2 tiers are what I would call, tier 3 is the big one. Tier 3 is empathetic listening, and tiers 1 and 2 are not empathetic.
Yeah.
They're more about emotional intelligence, which again we need to have. Tier 3 is a skill you actually never need to survive. Tier 1, how do I think and feel about me? How do others think and feel about me? Man, I need to survive. I need those in order to not get eaten by a dinosaur. So I always need those. Tier 3 is tier 3 is, it turns everything on its head. How do others think and feel about themselves? And how do I enter into that? Not how do I solve it, just how do I come alongside and support them? What is this person sitting across the table for me as I'm asking the 4 buying questions? What are they thinking and feeling about themselves? And how do I enter into that? This is the idea of switching. One of the ideas around switching from the idea of selling to people's pain points. What if I sold to their joy points? What if I found out, how do they think and feel about, what are the things that are really exciting to them? And I could relate what I do or what I have to that. So that's tier 3 listening.
Yeah.
And when I first came up with that for myself, Lynn, I was really conscious of it for like a few months. in conversations, and I would stop myself and say, okay, where am I right now? Oh no. And by the way, that's already you're out of tier 3 if you're asking yourself that question. But I was like 5% of the time I'm in tier 3. Most of the time I'm trying to think of what I should say next, how I could come back with a better answer than they did, to share with them how I broke my arm and they broke it, or I'm distracted by some squirrel running behind me. It's really tough to be tier 3, but that is the holy grail of being really good at business development, is just putting how I think about me and how others think about me on the shelf and just leaning in and saying, I want to know
Yeah.
how Lynn is feeling and thinking about Lynn and about Lynn's business. Boy, that's hard. But when you begin to, it's hard to begin with, but it's like any muscle, you can get there pretty quickly if you just focus on it. So that's tier 3 listening.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it just requires discipline, and it requires you to really tune in so that, and also ask clarifying questions. And I call using the powerful pause
Yeah.
to, to make sure that you also give them enough time to respond, to think about things, and then ask the second part of that, like, oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Or help me understand, there's a whole bunch of ways to then that second answer even gets them talking about it on a deeper level.
Yeah.
So you can really identify their emotions and motivations, and because that people buy on emotions and they rationalize
Boy,
it
don't
later.
they?
And they also buy on how are they going to achieve the so they can? What is the so they can? What's the goal, the dream, the initiative? What's the result they want? And that's what they buy.
It's not cheesy to actually figure out what they are emotionally buying on, because they are going to buy emotionally. It's cheesy if you play on those things and if you manipulate them, but you really do want to know what is driving people, and it's not their intellect. We got a contract with a major pharmaceutical company like 15 years ago, ended up being $7 million a year based on emotion. And here's the emotion. Why did you guys buy from us instead of the guys in Detroit? And their response was, because we're in Indianapolis and they're in Detroit, and we're going to have to come out often. And do we want to go to Detroit or do we want to go to Denver? We picked you guys. $7 million contract bought emotionally by a major corporation. Even the federal government buys emotionally. Don't kid yourself. We all do. So you need to find that stuff out. Yeah, that's part of tier 3 listening, is to find out what is their pain and their joy point, but then to be able not to manipulate that, but just be able to tune into that and share what you have relative to how it can help them.
Yeah. And you're so right, because whenever you manipulate someone, it will always come back on you. People figure it out. That's when you get account churn, because you're not being genuine. You're not showing up with worthy intent, and you're where you truly desire to help and serve others. That's where those long-term relationships that will serve you over decades comes in, and you're laying that groundwork. So, Chuck, I am really fascinated to ask you this question about what should our listeners do next? Like, what could they do today, tomorrow, this week about doubling their income within 90 days?
Well, they can connect with us
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's great. They can connect with us on our website, 3to5club.com. That's the number 3, TO, the number 5, 3to5club.com. And on there, they'll see success tools, and they can connect with us. They'll find the email grow@cranksetgroup.com there. So I would say just go to 3to5club.com, and you'll see there how you can begin to double your income in 90 days.
Okay, that's great. And Chuck, is there anything you wish that I'd asked you today that I did not?
Boy, I think you covered a lot of it. I think you didn't ask it, but you implied it. Well, but you didn't ask it, but you implied that the thing I would close with again is serve, don't sell. Stop stabbing people with your business card. Don't talk to strangers. Let's figure out how to find the few people who have all the clients we want, and let's just love them and watch what happens.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, thank you so much for sharing Twice the Profit, how to double your income in 90 days or less. And I went ahead and dropped in your website into the chat, and all of your links are going to be down below. So they're just one click away. And I want to thank all of our listeners who tuned in. We really appreciate you. And this has certainly been a very informative discussion. I hope you took lots of notes. And Chuck, thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
today. I know I personally found it very reaffirming and valuable.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm with you, Lynn. It's great to be with other people and just find out, oh, I'm not crazy. We really should build relationships. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
What was your biggest takeaway from this episode? I would love to hear about it. It's important to share the things you love. If you loved this episode, a 5-star review really helps keep the podcast coming to you regularly. Also, if you want to get more sales strategies to grow your business, make sure you subscribe right now. If you want to get results even faster, I invite you to download my sales strategy checklist at petitetoqueen.com/checklist. This has been Lynn Whitbeck, host of Claim Your Career Crown. I'll see you next time